All right, here is the completed restoration, resurrection, repair of the 1970 Beneath the Planet of the Apes Gorilla Stunt Rifle that what we believe was a reject piece. This is roto-cast vinyl that more than likely Fox's mold shop and metal shop made to make lighter weight stunt rifles that the gorillas and the actors used, where the real rifles, which were made out of aluminum and very heavy, or the background rifles, which were made out of wood and hurt and were heavy and hurt. So you see these vinyl stunt rifles being used when the gorillas getting shot off of the ramp by Brent at the end of the film, and Brent is actually handed one of these by Taylor when he makes his way through the church and up to the organ where he starts shooting an actual rifle at the gorillas. So we see a few of these. This is only the third one in my career that I've ever seen, and this one was an unfinished reject that we got from the owner to repair and restore to what would be a screen used look. So we've already in previous videos showed all the different repair techniques. So I'm going to just come in and show some of the details up close, get the camera to focus. So the barrel is just a dummy barrel. It's a solid barrel, much like the wooden doweled barrels in the wooden background rifles. And for whatever reason, the fronts were painted black an inch and a half or so back from the muzzle plate area of the rifle. The Hero rifles, the live fire rifles, didn't have this black band here. They were black in the front and black barrels, but the wood paint job went all the way forward. The wooden background rifles and these vinyl stunt rifles all had this black band here. And this casting actually has a raised area here, so it was very easy just to paint it black because the casting already had the separation line there. So we got that going, and then matched the paint job. Obviously we replaced the missing tab on the slide, the receiver slide pull. And again, you saw it in previous videos that we embedded 2 screws and snipped the heads off of those to give the patching compound something to bite onto, so that it's less likely in the future that this would snap off again. Yeah, not too... Oh, let's talk about character lines. This is a lap line made during the casting. And there was another thing that we pointed out in previous videos here on the front end, that there was clay or something encrusted into the casted vinyl that was entrapped in it during its casting process 55 years ago. So we scooped all that out and patched over that because it was a pretty big flaw. And then all the little flaws, there were tons of little air bubbles, casting bubbles and stuff that we patched and filled in. But things like the seam lines that run all the way down the dividing the 2 halves of the rifle, as well as this lap line here, we left because that's history and that's character. All the pinholes that obviously were ugly and stood out as flaws we corrected, but things that are character of the original piece and actually help to confirm that this restored piece is the piece that was brought to us and not a casting of another one. So there's all these little character flaw things help to confirm that this is the actual piece that was brought to us. Butts on all of the 3 different kinds of rifles for the Beneath movie were all painted black. The metal Hero carbines were black. as was the front end, both on the wood background rifles and the stunt rifles, because again, more than likely, because if something got dinged or scratched during filming, it's easier just to paint a single color than it is to try and match wood grain and all the rest of that. So this is the right side of the rifle. Get it to focus again. And then we'll flip it around and talk about all the cool stuff we did to the other side. Which, first and foremost, when we started the restoration on this, as you saw in the previous videos, there was
2 holes.
We drilled, yeah, let's start at the beginning. We drilled a hole here because one of the crew members, Rob, said this sounded hollow, not foam-filled. It was originally, we thought that this was either a urethane, foam-filled urethane, or foam-filled polyester resin casting, and could have been fan-made, like somebody got a real one, made a mold off of it, and then made a fan-made reproduction. But when Rob said that this sounded hollow, we said, well, let's find out. So we drilled a small hole in the back, big enough to put an endoscope in the back, and as soon as we did that, we noticed it smelled like vinyl. So right away we had confirmation that this was not polyester resin and it was not urethane. It smelled like vinyl, and old vinyl at that. So we ran the endoscope in, and there's video of that. It shows the inside of this is one solid, or not solid, but uniform thickness all the way around with no seam line visible. So this meant that this was, the material was put in the mold, and then this was spun until it cooled. So Fox's mold shop and foundry would have made metal molds to run the vinyl, PVA vinyl into, and everything was run warm, and then when the molds cooled down, they pop these out. And this one may have been popped out prematurely, so you saw in previous videos that this area here had collapsed, and there was a split on the surface, the outside surface, but that split did not continue to the inside. It was still smooth and connected on the inside.
It actually didn't go through the other side. It was like it had caved and cooled, but the areas were connected still.
Yeah, there was a definite split on the very surface of it, but like Eric just said, it was connected. So we cut an access hatch in the magazine well area, and wanted to get a piece of wood up in here so that, and that was the other thing too, is once we figured out it was vinyl, we knew we could heat this and get a lot of the drooped area that was here and the sagging area here back into shape. It worked for the magazine well. Eric was able to heat this and wedge wood in there, and there's previous videos that show that how that worked and how successful it was. And we were able to get some of this back up higher than the pitched divot that it was, but we weren't able to get it true like we did the magazine well. So this area, again, it's all in the previous videos, we ended up making an epoxy patching compound to patch and smooth this area out. And then of course the block of wood stayed in there so that we'd have something to mount the swivel clevis to. And then Eric, originally we were gonna, and this is in previous videos, I'm trying not to get the floor of the shop here, we had talked about just cutting the back of this open again, making another hatch to drop a piece of wood in for this, the rear end swivel clevis to mount to. But Eric said, well, why don't we just try and get the piece of wood up and over the trigger and in there, and figured out a way of doing that where it went up over the trigger, and then we straightened it out, slid it on down, screwed it into place, then polyfoamed, rigid foamed around it, and gave us something to anchor the replica swivel hardware and strap to. So those were the major repairs. And then actually turned out really well. Did you want to add something to that?
Major repair here, major repair here, and here, and here. Because we had to fill that.
Right. There, and originally this was cracked. It had a chip, because they had capped over this, and the cap that they used, whatever material it was, had chipped away over time. So we filled that in. We filled our 2 holes in because we drilled a smaller second hole to help pilot that piece of wood into position, lock it into place, and then those holes were used for us to inject our rigid foam into place there. So that all got capped over with our epoxy capping patching material and smoothed out, as did the hatch that we cut out. We put the original piece, that rectangular piece that was cut out of that, we put that back into place, mounted it to the piece of wood that we put in there, and then used the epoxy compound to smooth that all out. And that's pretty much it. Then it got primed with an etching primer and painted to resemble what was used on screen, sealed, and then we added the strap, and now it's finished. And this one was fun. This was not only an archaeological adventure, figuring it all out and what it is and what it should be, but we had a lot of fun with this one. So there you go, 1970 reject roto-cast vinyl stunt rifle, restored, resurrected, repaired, and ready for permanent display.